Hello and welcome to Driven by Doing podcast. Today we have Deeksha from India. Deeksha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Venki. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So Deeksha is an EdTech entrepreneur, serial networker, and a diversity enabler. I see a lot of great things that you're doing on LinkedIn, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And super interested to learn about your journey and your background and how you became an entrepreneur because especially women entrepreneurship is booming in so many different ways across the globe. So many
Sure.
interesting projects. So, how did you get
Right.
started in entrepreneurship, especially in India? It's very challenging to really have that
True.
support. And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, so thanks so much, and yeah, I think you're equally an inspiration to everyone, and thank you for doing this. The thought behind this is very noble. Talking about why I got started with entrepreneurship and why education. So both those things are very very clear. So ever since I went to school, and I'm sure everyone who's listening to this, if they've gone to school in India, one thing would be common for everyone, no matter which school you went to or which city. The focus of our education, at least in India, has always been on rote learning, on marks. Like you said, it's like a tailor-make approach, right? Okay, become a doctor or an engineer, or get like a fancy degree. But it was never to do with skill building, right? And when I say skill building, I talk about 21st century skills, because the kind of jobs that are being offered today or will be offered in the next 10 years, or rather the children today, when they enter the workforce in the next 10, 15 to 20 years, our schools are unable to equip those children with the skills, these 21st century skills. What are these skills? Communication, teamwork, creativity, logical thinking, anything around data. So these skills will not only define how successful you are in your professional life, but also in your personal life. And this was always a question at the back of my mind when I did my 9, 10, 11, 12. That why am I learning this? What am I even going to do about two dates of when two people fought over something that no one even remembers, right? So it seemed very disconnected. And then I ended up going to college, and that's when you realize that, hey, you needed to meet people, you needed to talk to them, you needed to understand what are your interest areas, because that becomes the basis of you choosing your career, right? Another thing in India is always, it's okay, just do this degree because everyone's doing it, without actually matching that with your innate skills. So these problems were kind of staring right at our face. And while I was graduating from St. Xavier's in Bombay, of course, like most of my other peers, everyone was getting great offers. I got some offers from Google and Zomato and all to work for them. But on the other side, I had this entrepreneurial bug which said that, do you really think you can make an impact or make a difference if you take up a job in a fancy organization? Is that something that you really want to do? And I decided that no, that was not something I wanted to do. And I felt strongly about education, about changing the way that we look at education in India, especially at a school level, because I think you can make a lot of difference there. So that was a very strong factor. The other strong factor was my mom's always been a teacher. So I understand, even from the entire teacher perspective, how education, is kind of viewed. And it's also very sad that, unfortunately, in a country like ours, teachers are very underpaid. They don't have very good career options, right? So that was another motive for me to actually figure that, is there a way that we could increase or improve the quality of what we offer as education, and could we also give alternate career paths to people or teachers in education, right? And that was kind of the birth of Cedarwood. And of course, I was not the only one. I have two other co-founders with me on this journey. But our idea back in 2013 was very simple. We wanted to offer skill building courses to children. Back then, of course, there was not much tech integration. EdTech as a term was not even coined, but we just knew that, okay, we need to do something, so let's get started. And we actually started off, in a physical setting where, based in Pune, we, kind of started conducting classes for children based on these 21st century skills. And over 2 years, we got some great validation on the concept, and we realized that, okay, this could have a high scalability potential. And that's when we decided to launch our online platform in about 2015. And it was a very simple model, and of course it still exists today, where today as a parent, if you want to maybe discover certain skill-based courses for your children, all you need to do is go on our portal. Now we also have our app, put in where you stay, and this was of course in a pre-COVID era. Now everything is digitized. You can have a look at all the skills we offer and the educators that offer those skills, and kind of simply enroll for some of the classes. So that's what Cedarwood is doing. We are building that platform that helps parents connect with teachers who are doing courses for their children based on what kind of skills they want their children to kind of adopt. So that was the beginning of Cedarwood. And of course, now with the entire COVID situation, a lot of what we do has been digitized. But unlike the entire common myth around that, wow, edtech is booming just because everyone's taking to digital means. Being in edtech, I can say that there are a lot of challenges, right? Online learning comes with its own set of challenges. So just because the sector is booming doesn't mean everyone's got it right. Schools are struggling. What about the children? What about the learning impacts on them? How are teachers who were not at all tech savvy now taking to technology? So there are still a plethora of problems, right? So we're at a very interesting phase. Definitely there's a lot of activity, but it will take some time, before we're able to crack the success behind online education.
Wow, that's just amazing. You just covered a lot of things there. Again, coming back to graduating from college, and now you
Mhm.
got an offer from Google and so many great companies, and now you have other option to become an entrepreneur. Like, what was that thinking looks like at that time, especially from parents' standpoint? Hey, like, now you got a job offer, now you wanted to become an entrepreneur. Like, making that decision in a stressful environment, it's kind of challenging sometimes. And a lot of students or professionals are wanting to become entrepreneurs who are listening to this. Also wanted to learn how did you make the decision, because it's not easy. You mentioned that from 9 to 12 you kind of like asking yourself like, hey, why am I learning what I'm learning every day in my class? Like, how is it uh, is going to enable me to what I wanted to pursue? Like, having that vision and the idea of asking those questions at that very early stage is it's it's difficult, right? Not a lot of kids have that kind of a vision, and you're so bold to make the decision after bachelor's to get into entrepreneurship. So, what was that journey or the phase look like if you look back now?
Right. So, in fact, like I said, I was always very inclined towards, figuring out what is it that I can do that can create positive impact. And I felt that just getting a job, and of course it's a lot more stable from every angle, right? From a financial angle, from your number of hours angle. As an entrepreneur, you don't have hours, you don't have stability. You don't even know when you're going to get money, right? I mean, you come up with an idea, 9 out of 10 times you are probably going to
Fail.
fail. But that what kind of stuck by me and what kind of motivated me was the fact that here we have an opportunity to actually create a difference. And that, I mean, for me at least, I'm someone who's very impact driven. So at any point of my life, I like, and I you're right, I do question myself. I do want to keep kind of doing the self audit on myself, that okay, today if I am living on this planet, what am I doing to make the life of the people around me, so my first set of people around me, and maybe even others around me, better. And I think that's a duty of each one of us, right? Before, we were kind of discussing about the whole thing about opportunities, right? Where you very rightly said that you think everyone can do anything, right? I mean, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you do. And I kind of truly believe in that. So I was fortunate to, have grown up in a household where, I was never told that you can't dream big or you don't need to worry about things. Coming to your point about women entrepreneurship, luckily I come from a household that is very, very broad-minded. There's never been a distinction about men and women. Most every woman in my family has been working. So, it was a given that, you need to work. So hence somewhere I felt it was my responsibility to inspire women around me who probably didn't get that kind of a family setting or an upbringing, and let them know that, hey, even if you didn't get that, you can still do very well, right? So somewhere creating impact, giving back were some of the things that made me choose the entrepreneurial path.
Wow, that was just amazing because having that kind of background, family background, who see everything equally, and you also mentioned that, hey, irrespective of what my background is or where I come from, having that vision from early stage, it's not super easy, and
Yeah,
really commendable of everything that you're doing. Again, now coming back to your entrepreneurial journey, now
sure.
you came out of school and then started working on this project. Like, what I feel is, you said that entrepreneurship is just a great journey and impact driven, right? And
Yeah,
then I believe that the journey itself is going to teach you so many lessons. Yes, there are 9 out of 10 startups that are going to fail, and yes, we are going to never hear or learn about them. But the
yeah,
people who are working on those projects, yes, it may or may not succeed in the long run, or especially in the edtech, right? Especially
yes,
edtech,
absolutely.
it's very, very difficult, because especially I'm trying to become an edtech entrepreneur, and I see a lot of challenges because it's not easy to change change the mindset of people who are going to use these products. It is very difficult, and sometimes you get to see a lot of different problems when you are in the game of trying to make a difference, right? So what was that journey initially with your first project,
Yeah.
Cedarwood? Yes, now you trying to become an entrepreneur. Like, what were those struggles initially trying to being a tech entrepreneur, especially in India?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of struggles, and you very rightly pointed out, and I can give you a stat around this, that most edtech entrepreneurs exit their business within 2 to 3 years of starting, 90% of them, because it is such a tough field. And a lot of the credit for us being able to sustain has to do with my founding and co-founding team, which I'm part of. I think everyone was highly committed. One of the co-founders is my mom herself. She comes from a teaching background, so she's heavily inclined and she's very passionate. Our founder, Mr. Vishal Kapoor, he's himself someone who's been very curious, and he was in the investing side and then he switched over to be an entrepreneur. So for him, it was like, we have to do this. So I think there were a lot of challenges, and especially for me, because I was the one who was setting up the initial structure of what we were doing back in 2013. And honestly, back then, there was no framework for me to refer to that this is how an edtech company should function. Right? Today, probably you have a nice manual that you can download and say, oh, edtech company, and these are the trends. But back then, there weren't. So for me, it was like, it was literally like, I had to try like 10 things and maybe one would work out. So the time, the kind of, you can say, bandwidth it took from me. Again, back then, the industry was not, the ecosystem was not as opened up now. Of course, the startup ecosystem in India is a lot more mature. People network, people want to come and help. But back in 2013, it was still very nascent, right? So just that trying to figure out what you want to do next, not knowing, and no one would actually know what would work or not work, right? So there were a lot of hiccups, and like I said, I think those hiccups is what makes you learn, right? So but definitely in the past between 2 to 3 years when we were setting up, I understood a lot of trends of what drives edtech, which I feel still a lot of companies don't understand that get into edtech, that edtech is more about the ed than tech. Look, tech is there. Tech is going to be there. Tech is there to enable, but the ed of it, the quality, or rather the people who you bring to provide that education, that is a make or a break in your system, right? And anything to do with people is always hard to achieve, is always hard to scale, right? So I think getting that balance of how do you get the right ed and then match it with the right tech. So I think that was a very, very big learning, and I wouldn't have been able to after 7 years actually even come to an entire digital model that is very successfully running now if I hadn't learned this the hard way.
Wow. Again, the process is the important thing here. And yes, there are going to be a lot of challenges, but whoever is listening to this now can actually relate. Yes, you're trying to get into becoming an entrepreneur, and even at tech or so, it's so important to understand how important it is from the get-go that you're signing up for this yourself. Yes, there
Yeah.
are going to be challenges. Once you sign up for it, it is going to be a lot of struggles. Yes, you are trying to get other co-founders and who think and have the vision just like you, and then you start to create pivots because you
Yeah.
see a lot of different challenges, and then you get to a position where you need to raise capital. That is
Absolutely.
altogether another job, raising
100%
capital.
raising
So what
capital.
was so what was your journey like, raising capital at that time when you're just getting started? Did you actually
Yeah.
raise any capital, or
So we
what?
so we raised a very, very small seed round, but ever since then we've mainly been bootstrapped, and a lot of it has come from one of my founders. What we were very sure of, and I do want to tell everyone this, while of course raising capital is important, if you have a model that is sustainable and you feel it can scale up and it will become investable, you should raise capital, because that's the one way that you could probably just succeed, or you can just do things faster, right? Money will make you do the same thing maybe in t minus 10 time. But what's also important to know is that if you don't understand what you want to do with that capital, raising that is going to put you in a bigger problem. So we took our time, we burnt our own money, we figured out what works. And now, of course, we will probably proceed towards, raising some more capital, but at least we are sure of where that money would find its best fit.
Wow, that's simple and straightforward answer. Thanks for explaining that. And now you work with startups
Yeah,
as a mentor on a weekly basis, and then you created Collaborate Her. So
yes.
tell us a little bit more about that initiative and how you're helping, especially women in entrepreneurship, to give them the strength.
Interesting. So I'll kind of, maybe backdate a little, to my entrepreneurial time. So, uh, when I entered, I mean, I've just been a very avid networker. I like to understand trends. I like to meet people. I'm a learner by experiences, right? So if I meet someone, I learn from their journeys. I think that makes a lot more difference to me. So I would be very keen on attending a lot of these networking events, forums, and one thing that I'd see across all these forums was that Venki, there were hardly any women. Like say in a group of 100, maybe there used to be like 5 or 10 women, and you'd be lucky. And this somewhere deeply bothered me, because I felt, I mean, I truly feel that women make excellent founders. They can multitask, they're very intuitive, they understand customer journeys and behaviors very well. So I would question myself, why don't we see more women in entrepreneurship? And just to give you a sense of the numbers, in 2020, we still stand at just 14% of the entrepreneurial ecosystem that's represented by women. So back then it was even, very, very dismal. So that was always on my mind. And that's when around 2015, 2016, I decided to do my own little research to figure out, okay, what are the loopholes, what's holding women back, what can we do to make the ecosystem more inclusive, right, or more conducive. So there was no formal data available, especially India-specific data on this. So I spoke to almost about 500 women entrepreneurs across the country, spoke to investors, spoke to ecosystem partners, and a few things were very very clear to me. One was because women don't network, they aren't able to get into strategic partnerships. And when you are starting out, I think, or rather even scaling up, getting into strategic partnerships or just being aware of industry trends is very important. So they were missing on that. Second thing was, a lot of women, when they start out their businesses, they don't build for scale. So they don't have a larger vision that, okay, or they don't have that confidence that, hey, the problem that I'm trying to solve and the way that I'm trying to do this could actually become, very scalable and turn into a big company. And the third thing is stemming from this, where because they don't build for scale from the beginning, they don't even consider the opportunity of raising external capital and, of course, kind of, fastening this entire scale up process. And that's why we don't see too many women success stories outside. Because we don't see too many women success stories, we aren't able to inspire women to kind of choose entrepreneurship, right? So these problems were clear to me. And the other thing that was also clear was the fact that you can't just say that one person or one entity is going to solve these problems. These are multilateral problems. We need to work with women to scale up or maybe make their ventures more sustainable. We need to work with investors to be more conducive towards investing in these women. Ecosystems need to be more inclusive. So that's how the birth of Collaborator happened, where the idea was very simple. I did want to help startups, help them scale in a very sustainable fashion. And a lot of the focus was on women, but I was not opposed to only working with women, because I feel that a lot of male-led startups, because they lack leadership and they know it, they want direction, they want an alternate point of view. So that's how Collaborator started about in 2017, 2018. And back then the vision was very clear. Whatever that we can do to foster entrepreneurship for a diverse set of entrepreneurs, that's what Collaborator was going to do, right? Whether that's mentoring, whether that's consulting, whether that's maybe introducing different IPs. So just to give you an example of what we did in this COVID situation, I realized that around in end of March that and I was again thinking to myself one day, I kind of do this very often, that hey, all your physical networking or all your events have stopped for startups. So where do some of these early stage founders, how do they meet investors if they want money to raise, or if they want money to kind of propel their businesses, or maybe solutions to the COVID problem? How do they network? So that's when I said, okay, why don't we put together a virtual business pitching event so that we can help early stage founders raise capital from investors who are strategic, who want to invest. And I feel at a time like these, startups are very agile and quick. I think they have the capacity to solve some of the problems that we are facing as a world at large, right? Because larger companies will still take time, to process a lot of the changes, but startups are agile.
Yeah.
So if we stop fueling them, we are reducing our chances of actually getting out of the situation that we currently are in. So that was the intention, behind Pitch It. And we've actually we're on the way to our second phase now. And that's the ethos of Collaborator. At any given point in time, if there's something that the startup ecosystem needs or the entrepreneurs need, we want to be at the forefront of it.
Wow, that's just amazing initiative to help a lot of entrepreneurs because it's kind of very challenging journey anyways. Now that at least if you have that kind of support, and especially with Pitch It and other initiatives that you're working on, it gives everybody the same leveling field. Which again, with COVID-19, we have seen like everybody has a lot of time now, and especially that's what I tell my friends. Hey, like this is your chance basically,
Yeah,
like to really sit back and think what am I doing and why am I doing, and is it something that I want to do for my rest of my life. And that's how I started my podcast actually. Hey, like I like meeting new people and like really learning from them. And I'm getting so excited every single week now as I speak with entrepreneurs, professionals, students from all around the world, just to uncover their stories, because everybody has a great story. And
absolutely.
That's what I truly believe in. And now coming back to your new initiative, Encubay,
Yeah. Yeah,
helping entrepreneurs. Tell us a little bit more about Encubay and how your
sure.
initiatives are helping entrepreneurs.
Right. So, like I said, a lot of the focus was on women. And when I say women, for me, the vision is to make sure that the startup ecosystem is gender agnostic, which means that entrepreneurship has nothing to do with gender. It shouldn't matter if you're a man or a woman, which college you studied in, which city you grew up in. It should be agnostic because ultimately, entrepreneurship is about finding a viable problem and seeing if you can provide a solution that is the best fitting to that problem, right? And that's all that matters. So at the moment, I strongly feel that because the numbers are so skewed in terms of women in entrepreneurship, we need to do a little bit more till we can probably level the playing field. And it is my hope that in the next 50 years, initiatives like mine don't even need to exist, or we cease to exist, right? Because we will automatically maintain that equilibrium. So talking about Encubay is one of our newest ventures. It is a global diversity focused incubator. So I say it's global because we have tied up with a organization called Greenhouse Capital. They're based out of UK and Africa. Now, they have actually been running a diversity-focused incubator in Africa for a while. And when I was doing my research, around the trends in women, I also did my research on, okay, how many women are actually taken to incubators and accelerators? And again, the same trends were reflected as in networking events. Very few. Even though as a country we have about 300 plus incubators, maybe just 10% of them are being opted for by women, right? So clearly there was a space, or there was a need to create diversity focused incubators. So I did my research, and then I came across Greenhouse Capital, and I felt that their program was very fitting. They'd already developed a great virtual learning program. So it was a good fit with their virtual learning and the trends and insights and the network that I had in India. We decided to kind of put together Encubay, where we want to be able to do everything to actually help more women founders succeed, more women founders actually achieve success. And that success will inspire so many more women to take to entrepreneurship, right? So that's our path. How are we doing this at Encubay? We've put in a lot of thought based on all the trends and the loopholes that I discovered. So one is, of course, the virtual learning about anything on fundamentals of business, from strategy to design to product to consumer behavior. Everything is very well kind of covered through the curriculum online. And this entire COVID situation has actually acted in our favor because now it can be done virtually. People are more willing to take to virtual mediums, right? So we're using that to our advantage, and women from all over the country can be part of this incubator. It doesn't have to be restricted to a particular city. So that's a good point. Second is, we've onboarded an amazing set of mentors, and all of them, the common theme is they all have been entrepreneurs. And this was something that I wanted to make sure of, because I think that an entrepreneur can give, or rather knows, the struggles, like you said. And I think those struggles and learnings will what help inspire, or maybe just help the other startups who apply for our program to learn from their journeys, right? So we have an excellent set of mentors. We're also providing all the startups who come on board any kind of support services that they need. So we've tied up with F Success, which is one of the largest entrepreneurial communities in the world. They host about 3.5 million entrepreneurs. So they're going to be offering over 300 benefits to all our startups who are shortlisted, from cloud credits to mailing services, so it's all there, whatever that you would need. Plus, we're also looking at corporate tie-ups, corporate innovation tie-ups, where some of our startups could maybe get the opportunity of conducting test markets in these corporates, or maybe seeing how they could work with the corporate. And I think that's an ideal scenario, right, for a startup if you do get your breakthrough in a big organization. And of course, capital, without saying capital, access to capital at a pre-seed or a pre-incubation phase, as well as at a post-incubation phase too. And we've made sure that we've gotten some diversity focused funds also to kind of participate, because in the past 2-3 years, we've seen a rise in diversity focused funds, of course, started off in the US, and now we're seeing those trends in India too. So they actually want to invest in women, but they don't know where to go. So the funnel is what we are creating. So that's what Encubay is. It's a proper 6-month incubation program. And we're in fact, we just opened applications. So if anyone's listening and they are a female founder, you must check out Encubay. And otherwise also, you can just, spread the word, because we've put in a lot of thought into the program.
That is amazing. Great stuff, Deeksha. So, a lot of great initiatives. I see a lot of great potential, and especially in entrepreneurship. Yes, we need to serve a lot of women, especially in India, because we just need to give them a chance as well. Because, as you have rightly mentioned in your research, you have seen a lot of things that you wanted to solve, and really commendable regarding that. And where can our audience connect with you if they would like to connect with you as well?
Absolutely. So I am very active on LinkedIn. You can search me by Deeksha Ahuja, Cedarwood. You'll probably get that. I am also available on email. What I can do is I can maybe share my email with Venki, and he can put it in the comments. I'm very available on email. I'm very approachable. I try to make sure that I give time to everyone. Maybe I'm just a bit delayed, but I will try my best to reach out, because I'm a true believer in collaboration, right? I think today a lot of whatever has happened in my life, I really count myself lucky. And and this is something that I do want to tell everyone out here, that sometimes when you are faced with obstacles, or you just by chance happen to meet or connect with someone, that time you question it and you'll be like, Array, why did I meet this person, or why am I doing this? But it's all part of a larger story, you know.
Absolutely. That's
Um,
go ahead.
Everything that you do, or you end up doing, or everyone you meet and you end up speaking to, has a role to play in your larger vision. And for me, I'll be very honest, I do consider one of the visions in my life to increase the diversity in the ecosystem. And in these past 8 to 10 years, everyone who I've met has had some role, to play in that. So um, like I said, you never know what conversation or what work could kind of lead you closer to your vision. So never say no to talking to people, never say no to collaboration. Try and network more, try and be out there, and also just try to be helpful.
That's just amazing. Networking is super important, and especially with the tools that we already have, with a click of a button, you can connect with anybody in the world, which is not the case a few years ago. So take advantage of all the great stuff that Deeksha is actually working on, and also connect with her on LinkedIn and reach out to her, because she loves talking to people and connecting with you as well, irrespective of where you are in the world. And she's a great entrepreneur and a great mentor. So you never know. Take every opportunity that comes your way. And
Like
thank,
I
yeah,
don't know if I'm a great entrepreneur. I know I'm an entrepreneur. I think an entrepreneur itself, being an entrepreneur itself, if you are one, that's validation enough, right? Good or bad can figure itself out. If you're an entrepreneur, you're making impact, and I think there's a full stop right there.
yeah, yeah. So that's what I tell myself. Like, yes, if you're an entrepreneur, you're already in the game. And as you
Yes,
rightly mentioned, good or bad doesn't even matter,
yeah,
because the process is the important key. And thank you so much,
absolutely.
Aliksha, for coming onto the show and spending your valuable time with us to share your journey. A lot of listeners who listen to your story, I hope they see themselves in your story, and we can enable them to pursue their dreams and opportunities.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think what you're doing is fantastic. We just need more people to come out there and talk about their stories to inspire everyone, and just also just drive conversation. So I really commend you. I think it's an amazing initiative. and happy to help anyone who's listening here. I will love to have a chat with them.
Thank you so much.